As Chris and the children reminded us so well last week, it is hard to wait. And this second week of Advent, yesterday a bright spot in that, when I feel like I have already been waiting so long, inundated with social media images imploring me to see my surroundings as falling apart around me, the benefits of Advent waiting are somewhat eluding me. I know, I wrote in my own epistle article for this month about how important it is to wait, but there are moments, perhaps even hours these days, when I am just not able to practice what I preach. The gospel passage for today, with Christ's second coming, winnowing fork in hand to burn the chaff with unquenchable fire, seems like it should speak to me. Its fiery anger should speak to the fiery anger I have so often had in these past months and weeks. But this week, I'm largely not finding it comforting. I am noticing that I, and many of my friends and colleagues, and many of you, the whole community in general, are perhaps often feeling too weary from all that has gone on to even be angry. And very oddly for me, and perhaps for many of you, too weary even to feel guilty that I am likely not doing enough to bring about justice in the spheres in which I have influence. Perhaps we are all too weary even to be certain that we are not just waiting, even active Advent waiting, in vain. Which is why, as I meditated on today's readings, I was drawn again and again away from Matthew and his divine righteous anger and towards Isaiah and his divine righteous joy. I invite you to close your eyes and just relax as I read our Isaiah passage once more. A shoot shall come out from the stock of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of its roots. The Spirit of the Lord shall rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear, perhaps better heard reverence, of the Lord. His delight shall be in the reverence of the Lord. He shall not judge by what his eyes see or decide by what his ears hear, but with righteousness, justice. He shall judge the poor and decide with equity for the meek of the earth. He shall strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips he shall kill the wicked. As one commentator put it, the ruler will strike the earth with the staff of his mouth. That is, he will reorder creation simply by speaking. The breath of his lips, such light imagery, is what will root out evil. The simple wisdom of his words, heard purely and with the compassionate breath intended in them, shall be enough to enable each of us to let go of anything which results in our participation in injustice. The wolf shall live with the lamb, the leopard shall lie down with the kid, the calf and the lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. They will not hurt or destroy on all my holy mountain, for the earth will be full of the knowledge of the Lord. When, and this passage is when, not if, the kingdom is fully manifest, anxiety and fear will be no longer. Those we were once fearful of, whose goals seemed as so at odds with ours, our predators, our own prey. Interesting for each of us to think who that might be. Will peacefully coexist with us. All of us will have what we need. We will all be so fulfilled that there will no longer be competing needs. As a spiritual discipline, even a civic discipline perhaps, I encourage you to read this passage each day. Meditate on it, draw it, Pull up an image of a painting of it on your computer and stare at it. Allow yourself to be consumed by the joyful awe of this imagery. As the same commentator says, this passage is not a call for action or even a criticism of injustice. These lines simply present unqualified good news. No interpretive comments should be allowed to obscure the tone of joyful hope. I, as your commentary interpreter, take note. Isaiah received this prophetic vision in the midst of terror and oppression. His community was too weary even to hope. Their waiting, like some of ours, had likely turned from the hopeful Advent waiting that the church heralds as life-giving to the hopeless waiting that stifles the work of God in each of us. Isaiah's words in his time and place, and again at this second Sunday of Advent in 2016, speak directly to the difficulty of waiting. They take on the anxiety that maybe what we are waiting for isn't actually real or won't actually happen, and invite us into the hopeful certainty that what we are waiting for is and will be. Today, even in the midst of the darkness that pervades our Facebook feeds and news podcasts, of the anxiety that so very often characterizes our waiting in this time and at all times, we are invited to experience the truth that the promise is real. During Advent, for obvious reasons that were only strengthened about 5 years back when Advent coincided with the 9th month of my pregnancy with Kate, I am so often drawn to the quality of waiting that families have for the birth of a child. Although the waiting is often full of joyful wonder, for many families, the joyfulness may be pushed aside by anxiety. There may be complications. Pregnancies do end disastrously sometimes. This passage from Isaiah is a window into the future so that we may learn with certainty that this pregnancy will end in joy. It is as if this passage from Isaiah gives us a glimpse of the future just after birth, just as we hear the first piercing infant cry, when relief floods us. We still haven't seen the new life we have birthed, but we know with certainty that it is real, that this time the hope and joy are warranted. This passage is our opportunity to bend time and space in a way we wish we always could, to access the certainty that even now lives and breathes in each of us, that God is, that God acts in and through and by and with us, and that the promise we wait and hope for, God, in reckless, unbounded love and creativity, will fulfill. For those of us who have found ourselves slipping into a hopeless waiting for the world to fall apart around us, this gift of glimpsing the certainty of the future transforms the very nature of our waiting. When bathed by the images of this text and the divine presence within them, we can now experience again the empowerment of hopeful waiting for new life. We can now hope in the active Advent spirit. Our hope becomes a divine tool of inspiration, liberating us to contribute to the coming to fruition of that for which we now joyously wait. The wolf shall live with the lamb. The leopard shall lie down with the kid, the calf and the lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. They will not hurt or destroy on all my holy mountain, for the earth will be full of the knowledge of the Lord. It is, it will be. May we joyfully, hopefully, be empowered to wait it into being. Amen.